Today, we're going to talk about uranium, as usual, for our weekly catch-up. Big announcement from KazAtomProm.
Yeah, totally not unexpected. And we've been talking about it on our show for several weeks now, and I think we drew similar conclusions. But it's helpful. It's good to have it out there. It's good that the market's now informed. And as people would know who've read the announcement, KazAtomProm have said that it's a month, that they will be delaying the resumption of wellhead development and other operations. And that's pretty consistent with what is expected and what we were thinking. But the little gems in the announcement, I think, are some of the side comments and what may or may not be able to be read into those. So there's lots of use of the word initial and if safe resumption and so forth. So they've left the door open quite clearly for an extension. Also, that what's quite interesting is when the time comes to resume, whatever that means, it's quite clear that it's going to be a softly approach here. KazAtomProm has said in their announcement that they will be gradually returning to wellhead development. And it seems like they're even going to test the waters a little bit with their logistics by resuming exploration first rather than wellhead development. So I find all of that quite interesting, and I think what we're looking at there is a company positioning for a real possibility, perhaps even a likelihood, that this 1 month period is going to need to be extended, if not in fact, at least in substance.
So I think the uranium bulls are getting quite excited about that, the implications of an extension or a possible extension there. Are you hearing the same sorts of things?
Not really. Obviously, people are excited about what continued disruption can do for the tightening of the market and the uranium price. But like many things, this is an announcement that was anticipated, it was expected. And so there isn't anything that's a catalyst as such. And so we haven't seen lurching share prices on ASX, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the market's just kind of taken it in its stride for now.
Okay, but if I look at, I know I couldn't help but notice Shell also made an announcement this week with regards to Kazakhstan. I mean, what do you know about that?
Well, I mean, they've announced that they're withdrawing all of their staff. They've chartered a couple of jets. They're taking them all back to the Netherlands, and then they'll be distributing them around the world. And that in itself is very telling. And the word is that it's because they can't be absolutely sure that their people there will get adequate medical care, which isn't a slight on Kazakhstan at all. I mean, that's exactly what's happened to any country that has really grappled to deal with either a first or a second wave COVID problem. So, but what it says to me is that in their judgment, this is a problem that isn't going away in just a couple of weeks. They can't just simply tell their staff, look, stay at home, lock yourself down, take full paid time at home for 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll ride this one out. They've probably already been through that thought process, and now they're saying, look, we're better off taking the hard pill and actually moving everyone out. And you wouldn't really do that for a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. There seems to be some longer term thinking. And the moves that big, enormous majors, particularly in the oil and gas sector in this part of the world, make is always a leader. It's always influential to both private and public enterprise. So I think it is significant that Shell have made this decision. It'll be really interesting to watch what some of the partners, Chevron and others, do in its wake.
I mean, the other thing I noticed was that Uzbekistan, they put out a press release. So, I mean, that whole region is really grappling with how to deal with what's going on there with COVID-19.
That's right. So Uzbekistan now is back into lockdown. Not quite as rigid as the initial lockdown, but for all intents and purposes the same. So now we get to watch what Navoy Mining, the Uzbek state-controlled uranium miner, does in response to that. Do they just carry on, or do they take the lead from KazAtomProm? The dynamics are very, very different here. We need to be clear on that. Navoy Mining, they sell mainly off the market to traders, to the Indians, to the Chinese. They aren't a market participant in the same way that KazAtomProm is. They're not the dominant player, so whilst they are still firmly in the top 10 of uranium producers, and any significant disruption there is going to affect 2020 supply, they're not going to be thinking about the market in the same way that KazAtomProm might be, or Cameco might be for that matter. So I think they'll be more reactive, but it just illustrates that this is a regional issue, the timing of this second wave that's experienced in Central Asia.